what is up, you fucks? We are back with another edition of the Doom Scroll Cast with me, your host, Lord Botha. How are you guys doing tonight? How was your weekend? Just kidding, because it's like middle of the week, because, yeah, we're the furthest away from the weekend we possibly can be, last weekend and this weekend, but, we got to know what the weekend, how your weekend was, okay? Just like we got to know what the oranges are for, and we still don't know what the oranges are for, okay? But welcome in, everybody. If you don't know what the show is about, this show, we go through some highly topical topics within the entertainment industry. We go through things that deal with the video game industry, things that deal with the film and television industry as well. We got a lot of stories to go through today. And then once we go through all the stories, or at least most of the stories, what I want to cover, we go through what we call the Doom Scroll, where I just literally pull up Twitter and we just live scroll Twitter. So far, we have not had anything egregious enough for YouTube to get mad at us in my feed, my main account feed. Weird, isn't it? When you don't interact with naughty shit on the internet, especially things like Twitter, it doesn't put naughty shit in your feed. It's wild, huh? My hair's all fucking messed up. I look bald as shit, more bald than I usually do. Some of us can own the fact that we're going bald, okay? Some of us accept the fact that we're going bald. All right? It's just a thing that happens. I'm okay with it. And when I get too bald looking, it's just going to all go away one day. But until then, we're rocking with what little hair that we have, okay? But we're not going to waste too much time. Not a whole lot has been happening to me in my personal life that I really have to get to. I pretty much put that through the posts whenever I have to delay and stuff, which I did have to delay this stream from yesterday to today, because usually it's on Tuesdays, just because I had to work an extra shift at my work, my real life work, and I was fucking tired, and I had to get caught up on video content to make, which I put my first video out today in like a week, because I just literally don't have time to put out content. I don't have time to edit content, if I'm being honest. There's plenty of time to actually record. That's not difficult. But like actually reading the topics and like getting into the actual like meat and knowledge of what I'm talking about, or like subjects that I want to cover, and then editing is really what takes so much time, because I'm a tiny channel. I can't pay an editor to just edit my videos for me. So I got to sit there, I got to edit all that shit myself. And it takes, basically, if you don't know, editing a video for YouTube is basically like any amount of time the YouTube video like takes in recording. So if your video is like a 30-minute record, like it's going to be like double that time to edit it. So you're looking at like an hour, maybe an hour 20 to like edit and like put everything in that you want to put in to make that video like decent. Not even like really good, just decent. Then you got a thumbnail, upload it, and all that, blah, blah, blah. To do multiple videos a day, it takes time, all right? And even if you're doing shorts, it takes time, because you got to reformat everything. And then when you're doing shorts and videos, you got to switch between formats. It gets really annoying. But I like doing it. I like putting out the content. I like sharing this between you and the subscribers, all the content, all right? So I'm going to continue to make it, find time to make it, even though I don't even have time to do some of the stuff that I need to do these days. My lawn is fucking overgrown right now. I never have fucking time to mow my lawn, partly because it's a constant battle between me and it every week, because it seems like during the summer I have to mow my lawn like every week, because my fucking lawn grows so fast. It's ridiculous. But anyway, you didn't come here to see some balding dude talk about his unk problems of having to mow his lawn, all right? You came here to listen to some discussion about some gaming and entertainment industry topics. So let's go ahead and pull some of those up. All right. Let's see here. Pulling up the web pages. Let's close that out. I'm not even in the right place. So, we got several topics to talk about. We might not get to politics stuff, even though there is some politics stuff I could talk about. That is a thing. This is a show where occasionally I talk politics. If you don't know what my politics are, you're going to learn pretty fast. Let's just say I wouldn't put myself anywhere near the liberal category, all right? This is the one thing where I get pretty openly political. I try to keep politics out of everything else that I do, okay? Especially, entertainment topics, the video game topics especially. I try to keep those more secular from politics, but here in this one show, we cover some political topics. And if that's not your cup of tea, I get it. You can tune out during those times, or you can just tell me I'm a retard or whatever you want. But we do have a lot of topics today. Let's see. We have Quinta Brunson, who's from Elementary, I think, or something like Abbott Elementary, I think is the show. Actress, black actress. She's gonna be playing Betty Boop, apparently in a movie, which that's a thing. So we might go through that. There's a whole big drama with Subnautica 2 and their end of user license agreement, which I'm actually making a video about. So we might go through that. That is a meaty topic. That will take some time to get through, because there's a lot there. We have good news and better news when it comes to Lord of the Rings games coming out, including some stuff dealing with Warhorse Studios, the guys that make Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. Gonna definitely talk about that. Let's see here. What else? Oh yeah, and The Mandalorian and Grogu came out this week. And yeah, the critics have their reviews in, and it's not good. It's not good. There's also some minor things. We might talk about I just put a video out about this. We might talk about PlayStation. They're raising prices again on PlayStation Plus, so we'll talk about that. There's also some minor things here. Fortnite decided to unnerf some skins that Overwatch had nerfed, which is fucking wild, and I think speaks a lot about Fortnite's numbers right now. We got, let's see here, in the political topics, Candace Owens did an interview with Hunter Biden, which that's weird. We might talk about that. We also got Thomas Massey losing his election, his re-election primary. That's pretty big news, and just the absolute people coming out of the woodwork politically to glaze Thomas Massey and how principled Thomas Massey is, even though he's not going anywhere politically, career. I wish we could just it's very obvious that he's now going to try to push to be a presidential nominee or get into that race in some way. I wish we could just skip past that stage and go directly to him becoming a political podcaster with his own show. I wish we could just go straight to that, all right? Skip the whole presidential nonsense, because that's just not going to happen. All right. We got Governor Josh Shapiro put out a post that was the most encapsulating of what the Democratic mindset is to solve problems that I've seen in a very long time. And the fact that this guy is the front runner and being pushed as one of the it guys of the Democratic Party is kind of wild because from all I've seen is that he's just a traditional dumb dumb idea Democrat. Like the only appealing thing is that he's not an insane leftist, is what I've heard. That's about it. So yeah, lots of. Oh, and this just dropped right before, not that long ago, before the show. We got an announcement about Ubisoft and their fiscal year ending in March of 2026. Spoiler, it's bad news. But yeah, lots to get into here. Probably not going to get through all of it tonight. We'll probably get through some of these stories and then and then there's fucking so much news, man. Mark Zuckerberg's Meta is laying off apparently 8,000 people. Continuing to prove that Meta as a brand and platform. Instagram, I think I saw at one point Instagram was the most deleted app, or the most the app or whatever that's the most left, has the most amount of people leaving it in the year of 2025 or something like that. The thousands upon thousands of people. And I mean, Snapchat is just kind of there, and it's used by pretty much every woman in existence. And Facebook has essentially become a platform to occasionally go back and see what people you went to high school with are up to in terms of their lives and troubles or wherever, and also photos of your own kids that your wife is posting. And that's pretty much it. I mean, that's all I use Facebook for. So, but yeah, it kind of makes sense that Meta's not doing so well. But we might get more into that. But that's pretty much the story is right there, is that it's hard to monetize that kind of platform. So it's not that big of a surprise that they're making layoffs. But let's get into some of these other stories here. Where do we want to start? You know what? Let's start with some positive news here. I got to scroll down because this is technically older positive news. So let's go. been muted this whole time? Are you fucking kidding me? All right. Well, that's fucking embarrassing. Anyway. So, let's do this again. We'll see if we can trim that out of the live stream. I don't know if I can, but we'll see. So, from the top. This comes to us from Pirate Nation, right? And it says that Amazon's game... Fuck, I'm fucking it up, and this is supposed to be take two. Shit. Highly professional stream here. Amazon Game Studios has canceled its Lord of the Rings MMO. Announced in May 2023 in partnership with Embracer, the project was still in very early pre-production. The decision follows Amazon's major layoffs last October, which scaled back several first-party AAA and MMO. The studio says it continues exploring a new game experience set in Tolkien's Middle-earth. That's going to be difficult given the next part of this story, or at least this Lord of the Rings section of what we're covering here, that we'll get into in a few minutes. But what I was saying while I was fucking retarded and muted was that this failure here, that's essentially what this is. It's a failure. This failure of Amazon Game Studios, because it's not just this, it's, as they said, a scaling back of their first party AAAs and MMOs. The fucking MMO that Amazon Game Studios put out. It was like something world, new world or something like that. That was impressed nobody and nobody wanted to play. And then between them and Amazon, right? Or not Amazon, Netflix. Remember Netflix came out? They were going to do Netflix gaming. And they put on a whole bunch of games there that were like, I think they had like old GTAs or something like that. And they had a bunch of shitty like app games or something. I got to be honest, I don't even know. Because for the longest time, I didn't even know how to access Netflix gaming. It wasn't advertised or explain very well how to even do that. But those failures, and that's what they are, they're complete failures. Netflix gaming is never going to be a thing. It's never going to be a big enough thing unless they get partnered with an actual gaming publisher, an actual console company like Xbox or PlayStation or whatever to, run their content. The failings of Netflix and Amazon in the gaming space are a lot like, and this is what I was trying to say while I was muted. It reminds me of, I'm a big fan of restaurant renovation shows. So things like Kitchen Nightmares. I know Gordon Ramsay still does it under a different name, but like back in the day, especially like Kitchen Nightmares, Restaurant Impossible, which was essentially Kitchen Nightmares on the Food Network, but they didn't have Gordon Ramsay available because he was contracted through Fox. So literally they can't mention that Gordon Ramsay even exists on Food Network because he's contracted through Fox. So that's why, fun fact, that's why they have people that like go through like Hell's Kitchen and MasterChef and all that, but they can't mention that those people were ever on those shows because that would mean they'd have to mention that Gordon Ramsay exists. Anyway, it's funny when you get into the business of all this, how you realize like how certain contracts and things on TV like that work. But the Restaurant Impossible was another one of those with knockoff Gordon Ramsay, Robert Irvine, right? And you had things like Bar Rescue, right? Which was essentially the same show with John Taffer. Those shows, what I noticed a lot about them over the course of like the decade or so that I've been watching them is that one of the common threads of the shitty owners of these bars a lot of times is incompetence and inability to run the business effectively, because these were owners that were successful in another business and just casually thought, oh yeah, like I go to restaurants a lot, I could run one, based upon that and the fact that they were successful at like a fucking lumberyard business. But that doesn't mean anything when it comes to actually like running a restaurant. The same thing goes for like people who worked in the restaurant but only worked as like a server or even just like a manager or whatever. Just because you were successful and an expert in a part of the business doesn't mean that you're qualified to run the whole business. In the same way, I think Amazon and Netflix thought because that within the entertainment sphere, they were so successful with television and movies and this sort of niche that they've carved out. Well, I mean, video games has to be easier, right? So we could just do video games too. Why not just try to tap into a new market of entertainment? Let's do video games too. Not understanding and coming out and being like, oh, we're going to do AAA. We're going to do the best, okay? Being fucking the guy from The Room, right? Where he's like, oh, we're not going to rent the equipment. We're going to buy. And they're like, well, typically even big Hollywood studios rent the equipment, not buy. And he's like, no, we're going to buy it. They thought they had such hubris that they were so good at entertainment in other ways, other mediums, that they could put out the best quality, the highest quality entertainment in a completely different medium and do it successfully on the first try. That's why they were so loud and bold about these announcements. And then it was crickets afterwards and shit content put out afterwards. And now you have this. You have complete and total collapse and failure. Amazon is basically having a complete collapse and failure when it comes to their gaming division. And Netflix is going to have it too. They're already kind of in the process of it happening. And it's going to be very hard for them to justify a new game experience set in Middle Earth, even though I know they want to capitalize on it because they have the rights, right? From fucking, what is it, Simon Tolkien? They have like selective rights. But the other part of this story and why that's going to be difficult for them to make any kind of splash all the way up here is because we got this news today from Warhorse Studios. This is the guys who made Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. You might have heard the rumors. It's time to reveal what we are working on. An open world Middle Earth RPG. That's right. We're getting a Lord of the Rings RPG from the guys that made Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, which should have won Game of the Year if Expedition 33 didn't exist. Because Expedition 33 is like the game of the decade. Like it's the first game in like a decade plus to actually revive an entire genre of video games. Turn-based action RPGs. And actually like do something new. Both from like an artistic standpoint and thematic standpoint. And like tell a story that's deep and meaningful and personal. And just then the music that's just absolutely phenomenal. It hits on all cylinders. It's a 10 on all cylinders. If that game does not exist, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 probably would have won Game of the Year. Unfortunately, it did. So that's the way things goes. And I feel like it's justified to say so because Expedition 33, it swept the Game Awards. Like it won like almost, I think It won almost every, I think it lost maybe one or two of the categories it was nominated for, but everything else it was nominated for, it won. It even won like best like original or best first release game or something, which was the only award I think that Dispatch was nominated for. And I thought Dispatch, or one of the other small guys, but especially Dispatch, should have won that one. Because that's how good I thought Dispatch was. But these guys that put out a game that's good, that was so successful through all the bullshit controversy that people tried to drum up about this game, just to try to find some kind of it's woke angle, because the anti-woke media crowd at that time, and I'm not talking about the guys that are actually like, hey, look at this bullshit, it's bullshit, because there is a lot of woke bullshit out there and agenda-driven story writing within video games. I don't deny that. But there are also a lot of guys, a lot of actual grifters that make their money and make their content solely based upon that. And the anti-woke content at that point was kind of at a low. There wasn't a whole lot to talk about. So they were searching. They were searching for anything. They were on, dare I say, a witch hunt. Ooh.
What the hell is even that?
A witch hunt. Trying to find some kind of woke things within the game. And you know what they found out was woke about the game? There was an optional gay romance that you could easily just not click a button on, and it not happen ever. Like, it's not even like it wasn't an Anders situation, right? In Dragon Age 2. You might remember, in Dragon Age 2, Anders basically, out of nowhere, if you're just nice to him, tries to hit on you. Whether you're like a man, a woman, or whatever. He tries to hit on you. And it wasn't like that. It was just like you and your bro being nice. You had the option to hit on him, and you just don't. You just don't. It's that it's simple. You don't press the button. I know that's hard for like, say, the developers of Mixtape to understand, because they don't believe in you hitting any buttons, essentially. The fact that you have to hit buttons in their game pisses them off. Because that game is not a game. It's a movie that's forced to require some kind of activity to be a game. And it barely does that. But that was the one thing they could find that was woke about it. Oh, and the other thing they found that was woke about it was there was a black character. Which, okay. You know what else has a black character in it in medieval times that also made sense for the position and all that? And was fiction, even though it's loosely based upon history? Robin Hood. Kevin Costner's Robin Hood. Because, you know, who is it? Morgan Freeman's character in that movie didn't exist. Completely made up. And today they would probably call that woke. But it's not. It's actually good fucking character addition. Made the story a little bit more interesting. Made the characters a little bit more well-rounded. It was fun. And the gameplay and the stories and pretty much everything else about the game was pretty based. And they tried to drum up more controversy about, like, trying to use Hans Capon, the character's age in the game, like, versus his age and the real life person that he's based off of, and trying to lead it to PDF files and stuff like that. Stupid stuff. Trying to find some way to prove the game was woke. You had motherfuckers like Endymion out there who's just hell-bent on trying to prove that the game was terrible. and he was having a bad experience, even though the game is not terrible. By the way, the last time I saw Endymion, this is how you know a real like clout chaser, a real like, yeah, I was there, guys, kind of guy. This motherfucker was on Yellow Flash's stream about fucking the quartering, where they were roasting the quartering on Rumble, and they're like, hey, Endymion, what's your opinion about this? And he was literally like, I gotta be honest, guys, I don't know anything about this or what's going on or whatever. I'm just here to hang out and play like whatever video game he was playing. I think he's playing Windrose. And it's like, what? Why are you fucking here then, dude? Like, what? Anyway. He's there to say that he was part of the stream. He's there to show that he picked a side. What is being labeled the just side. Which is kind of the just side, because fuck the quartering. But back to this. I've strayed way off topic here. They are doing an open world Middle Earth RPG, which is going like that. First question is, how open world are we talking here? Because that's a pretty big fucking world. We need to set some boundaries here. I don't know what that means. It also is like, does this mean that it's going to have the classic Warhorse Studios combat system, which is the strategic like first person view like combat system that we get in Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, where it's trading blows and all that, and it's very, very different from traditional combat system video games? Or is Warhorse actually going to go out of their comfort zone and do a more traditional system, which we haven't seen from them before? It's a bit like, I don't know, when CD Projekt was doing cars for the first time in Cyberpunk 2077. Nobody really knew what to expect from their, cars and driving system, because it's not something they ever did before. So, but that will definitely be interesting. And there's also the question of like, by the time this game comes out, how much harm is going to be done to the Lord of the Rings in terms of a franchise that people are still interested? Because I would argue that the first trilogy is legendary. Best trilogy ever put out of a movie franchise ever. The Lord of the Rings movies are something like sacred in my household, okay? We played Into the West at my grandma's funeral. That's how like into Tolkien my family is, okay? How much we respect that in this house. And those movies are awesome. Now, the Hobbit films, not so great. Those were films that were clearly extended beyond the story that what they were supposed to be, purely to be a cash grab and create a trilogy out of them, when they probably could have been told in 1 to 2 movies. 1 to 2 movies is all you needed to do with that. Everything else has been an absolute travesty. Just absolute dog shit. And I don't know. We're still going to have more Rings of Power down the timeline. And we got the Hunt for Gollum movie, and the movie that fucking Stephen Colbert is co-writing. So who knows how that's going to fucking work out. We got all that in the pipeline. And this game, I don't know when it's going to come out between all of that. So it's a question of like, where is the franchise as a brand going to be? And are people going to be very invested in this? It's kind of like Saber is doing the Avatar RPG, right? Open world RPG of Avatar: The Last Airbender. And there's, I think people still want to play that, but there's also questions now that with the Avatar movie being leaked and people have seen it, I think it's safe to say that, the original Avatar writers, who were also guys that worked on Legend of Korra, people forget this, but they worked on Legend of Korra, and they also they also did the Avatar movie. I think it's safe to say that those guys were one-hit wonders. That Avatar The Last Airbender is an aberration of their talent rather than the rule of their talent. And everything else kind of proves that. But so, you know, there's been questions based upon the lackluster content made for The Last Airbender universe, whether or not Saber's game franchise or game, its open world RPG for The Last Airbender will do as well as it could have done, just based upon the state of the franchise. Now, I could be wrong. Could be a completely different take. Could give people way more freedom to create their own narrative, their own story, and thus give them a better experience or the experience they're looking for in the Last Airbender universe than all the other content put out by the actual creators. And the same thing might be true here for Warhorse and the Middle Earth RPG. Let's just call it that. But another thing they say here is that they are working on a new Kingdom Come adventure. Does that mean an expansion or an offshoot game or just a direct sequel? Kingdom Come Deliverance 3? Who knows? But I'm excited for that because the Kingdom Come games are good. I'm sorry, anybody who's saying that they're bad, you're wrong. And especially if that's based upon political stuff. Don't let your political ideologies solely drive you when it comes to video games, all right? It's like Soros that just came out, right? There's political reasons and sociological reasons to not want to like that game. But the truth is that I wouldn't touch Soros because it just didn't look interesting to me. It looked kind of generic. There was nothing that really grabbed me from the trailers I saw. Nothing that hooked me about the story or really let me know what the game was about. I mean, there was some gameplay that was shown, but the gameplay without any story to know what the game is really about doesn't really tell me anything. And then when we learned what the game was about, well, now I'm out because that mixed with the gameplay that kind of looks, I don't know, all right. It just wasn't something that aesthetically and gameplay wise and all that just added up together from what I've seen. It was something that would attract me. Not based solely off the politics and the culture war stuff, but based upon a whole body of work plus that together. So yeah, I'm excited for this one. Warhorse Studios and what they're going to do with their Middle Earth RPG and their new Kingdom Come game, which I think it's going to be KCD 3. I think they're going to pump out Kingdom Come Deliverance 3 pretty fast, and I think that's going to be the end of the series, if I'm being honest. I get the feeling that they love Kingdom Come Deliverance, but I also get the feeling that Daniel Varva is dreaming bigger and wants to make more things. I'm thinking that Daniel Varva wants Warhorse to become the next CD Projekt when they were at their height, right? Right before Cyberpunk 2077 came out. Now they've kind of fallen off, and to be honest, CD Projekt need the next Witcher game to be a hit. They need it to be a hit if they want to continue being the size and strength of a studio that they are currently. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. All right, let's talk about this. So the Mando movie. So Mandalorian and Grogu comes out, I think, this week sometime. I don't know the actual release date. I'm going to be honest, didn't keep up with it that much because I don't plan on seeing it. Because I checked out of Mandalorian like after the second season. What the show I thought I was going to get in the beginning, it ended up not being that show. I thought from the first episode we were going to get a gritty, tough, more adult-like version of Star Wars that showed the more seedy underbelly of like the Star Wars universe. But what we ended up getting was 3 men and a baby, except it's one Mandalorian and a baby. And that's all the show has been. And they literally can't stray away from that because merchandise. So, with all that said, the Mandalorian Grogu movie, you know, the same one that had the terrible trailer from the Super Bowl that was like doing like a Clydesdale throwback that everybody thought was weird and didn't understand how it all fit. Well, the Mandalorian and Grogu movie has debuted at 58% on Rotten Tomatoes. The first Star Wars movie in 7 years. This is from Discussing Film. And there's something to be said that, like, okay, so Rotten Tomatoes numbers are essentially bullshit, right? They don't really stand for much. And the critics are going to say whatever. Typically, if the critics hate something, that means it's probably going to be good, especially if the audience numbers are really high. However, in these types of cases, when it is a movie from a massive franchise, from a massive studio, that typically gets people online to shill, and especially legacy media, to shill hard. And the critics for legacy media, the guys that are critics that post critic reviews on Rotten Tomatoes, it usually gets, those studios usually get those critics to shill hard for a movie. When it's so bad that those critics either weren't paid to shill for it or don't care enough to shill for it, that it's below 60. The debut number is below 60. That's not good. That probably bodes that this movie is going to be way lower than that when it comes to the audience score. It's a movie that nobody really wanted. It's a movie that I don't think anybody thinks is going to move the story, move the idea and IP of Star Wars into a new direction. And that's really what Star Wars needs. Star Wars as a brand, essentially, at this point, is a dead franchise. It's a dead brand. They made Star Wars uncool again. Like, for a good long while, Star Wars, being a nerd, being into Star Wars, people forget. Then, like, the late 70s, when Star Wars first came out, in the early 80s and all that, being into nerd shit, being into Star Wars was uncool, all right? For a very long time, actually, even into the 90s, I think. It was uncool to be into Star Wars. Then finally into the 2000s, being into nerdy stuff and being into genre stuff, right? The idea of fantasy, the idea of sci-fi. Being imaginative like that and into imaginative stuff, that was considered cool now. And as such, Star Wars became a cool brand. Unfortunately, Disney's acquisition of Star Wars has made it an uncool brand. Because what they've done is they've taken that brand and they've corporatized it. And not only have they corporatized it and made it very clean and sterile, they've also tried to inject, not really, well, I guess at some certain points, political ideology and social cultural agenda and beliefs into Star Wars. And a lot of it having to do based upon hires that just don't want to shut the fuck up. Don't want to shut the fuck up about their personal beliefs. And it tarnishes the brand with that. That's how you end up with shit like The Acolyte. And also its lack of investment. Lack of care. Because these people who have political agendas, who have ideologies and beliefs that they want to interject into a story and create a story that they want to put forth using the world of Star Wars, or using the world of The Witcher, or using the world of Lord of the Rings, or some other fantasy, fucking Willow, or whatever. They want to use those worlds to push forth their own story. And they're based upon their beliefs, their culture, their ideologies. A story they want to tell, typically about themselves or something personal to them that nobody would actually typically care about if they just made those stories. But they want to piggyback off of franchises that are already popular and have a fan base so they can get the affirmation and do the numbers that they feel they are deserved of. When in reality, they're not. They're inflated based upon the successes of greater men. That's what we had with Star Wars. That's what we had happen to Star Wars. And happened to so many other franchises over the past decade and a half. To the point where we just have a graveyard now of franchises that have been killed off by the girl boss, by the fucking gay agenda or whatever. And I say that because they openly say it. They're not so secret gay agenda stuff, right? And all that has led to a state, essentially, where people just do not care about Star Wars. That's the problem here for the most part as well. You can have hatred. You can have love. But you can't have apathy. Darth Treya, right? Or Kreia, as she was known in Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, right? Knights of the Old Republic 2. Apathy is death. Apathy has come to Star Wars. And that is why it is dead. People do not care anymore. People don't feel disgust and anger and want to see the film to ridicule it in hopes that those ridicules might cause course correction. Nor are people in any way excited about it and long to see something that they think might be great. People simply see it and they accept that it is. They accept that it is bad and they move on to hopefully something better for them. That's what's happened, and that's what's led us here to a Mandalorian and Grogu fucking movie after season 3, which is was a monumental failure that had cameos by Lizzo and Jack Black. I watched the first Star Wars movie, Star Wars A New Hope. The first Star Wars movie, 1977, right? I watched the first Star Wars movie for the first time since, I don't know, I was maybe 16, 17, like in over a decade or whatever. Just last week. And I forgot, how good of an adventure film that was. How, if ignoring all the bullshit, ignoring the extended universe, ignoring all of Lucas's later ideas, ignoring, Luke and Leia are actually, brother and sister, ignoring that, Darth Vader is actually his father, ignoring that all the even just canonized stuff about Star Wars, just taking Star Wars in as a singular adventure film, sci-fi adventure film for what it is. How good of a fucking movie that was. How much fun it is. How good of a simple, heroic adventure story it was. And we just don't get that shit anymore. The closest thing we get to those are fucking Joseph Kosinski movies. I think that was his name, right? The guy who did Top Gun Maverick and F1. He's the only one that can kind of slightly capture that feeling again of heroicism and exceptionalism. but that feeling's just gone. It's completely gone from Star Wars and just kind of film in general. But it's specifically gone when it comes to Star Wars for sure. And I don't know anybody that's excited for this. The only people that are going to see this film are film zombies. People who mindlessly are like, oh, new product is out in this franchise that I remember I loved as a kid, so I will go consume new product. Which there are a lot of those people. I know those people in my life. The most normie of normies. Who think they're nerdy, by the way. But in fact, they're normies. It's very, very sad. And this is just the way it is. And it's not going to get better, like I said. That's why we have apathy. And hopefully this means the end of Mandalorian and Grogu and their story. And to be honest, the only way that Star Wars can survive is if it first goes away for a little while, as Lucas once said, so people miss it. And there's build up and anticipation for it to come back. And they go far away from this shit. I don't care if it's far into the future. I don't care if it's far back doing fucking Knights of the Old Republic shit or just Old Republic shit. I don't care. I don't want the fucking Mangol movie that they cancel, which was the Origins of the Force movie or something, because I know they'll just absolutely destroy like any kind of like faith in Star Wars doing that shit. Don't get it twisted. James Mangold, for all the praise that he gets for the movies that he's made, he also is the guy who did the last Indiana Jones movie, Dial of Dysentery. That was fucking terrible. So, I don't want that. But maybe you do an Old Republic movie, you do Knights of the Old Republic movie, where you go way into the future, past Rey and all that bullshit. Hopefully you can forget about that, and you do something new. Some kind of new adventure movie. Get away from Skywalker and all that bullshit. If you want to keep this timeline. Although I've heard rumors out there that they're going to do timeline splitting bullshit with the franchise. Where they're going to seal off the Rey timeline and it's going to be something different. And just, yeah. So we'll see if that comes into play. If it does, that's a very lame way to try to reset and fix your mistakes. But I wouldn't put it past them. All right. What's next? Oh, let's take a look here. What do I want to talk about here? Maybe Subnautica. Might do a short one instead. Just a little palate cleanser here. You know what? Let's do this one. Let's do some anti-woke content. So, Quinta Brunson, I think that's how you pronounce the name, will star as Betty Boop in a new film. The film, made in collaboration with the creator's grandson, third generation screwing things up again, would follow the origin and evolution of Betty Boop through the POV of her creator, Max Fleischer. Okay? Now, what people are going in on this is Quinta Brunson from something Academy or something Elementary, Abbott Elementary, right? Is quite clearly a black woman. And Betty Boop, at least as she's drawn for most of her existence, quite clearly a white woman. And yeah, there's some issues to be taken with that. Now, there is some disputes, I've seen at least, on whether or not Betty Boop was actually based upon an actual like black jazz singer or black jazz singers or whatever. And that might be. And they might have been actual whitewashed by the creator to be more palatable to a broader audience, especially back in the 30s or whatever that Betty Boop was created. But they're going to have to get around that and talk about that in the development. And also, we don't know if it says a new film. She'll star as Betty Boop in a new film. It doesn't say if it's going to be live action or not. Like, it doesn't say if she's not like playing the voice of Betty Boop or she's actually going to like be a live action character that's an inspiration or whatever, or be Betty Boop as a live action it doesn't explain that. So Discussing Film not doing a very good job of discussing the topic here. Of course, they're just reposting this information from a fucking Variety article. So, you know, also, and this is interesting to see, Discussing Film not feeling like discussing today as they've turned off the replies. Which you gotta admire a page called Discussing Film doesn't want to discuss the film because they're upset that you might say something like, hey, why is this black woman playing what we've traditionally seen as a white character? Seems a little weird. And that makes them cry. So yeah. I don't think there's much really to be upset about when it comes to that, though. Because it's one of those things where it's like, yes, she's an iconic like cartoon character, and she is traditionally drawn white. But this is one of those things where it's like, it's a legacy character that goes back to such an art that's existed for so long and like is so removed from modern cultural like influence that it's almost like, what real impact will this have? I mean, it's a film about the creation of Betty Boop as a character. What is that going to make at the box office, right? And also, like, who is that for? Who is that movie for? For art students that care about the origins of drawing characters like Betty Boop? For super boomers that remember Betty Boop as a kid? No, like, who is this for? It's like the Murder, She Wrote movie, right? That's coming out. Who the fuck is that for? They greenlight these ideas, and it seems like nobody exists anymore that is like, is this a good idea? Should we do this? I don't know. It's kind of wild to me, but I honestly, at the end of the day, I don't think it will make a big splash, to be honest. I don't think it's anything to write home about because it's not really that popular. So, let's do some politics real quick. Let's do some politicking. So, there's this video here. It's weird seeing people chilling without their phones. High school in the 2000s. I mean, I guess we had phones in the early 2000s as well. They weren't good phones, but we had we have people like Josh Shapiro here, right? Governor Josh Shapiro of like Pennsylvania. He's a golden boy within the Democratic Party. He's a big name within the liberal. The thing the liberals and the leftists, and the reason why they're keeping him ostracized in the Democratic Party, won't accept him as a presidential nominee or anything like that, even though his name has been floated around there for a good long time about being a presidential nominee. And a guy that a lot of people thought was going to be Kamala Harris's vice presidential candidate because he was fairly well put together and could have hold himself better in a debate than fucking Tim Walz. But she went with Tim Walz and not Josh Shapiro. purely because the base doesn't like him. Why? Because he's a yarmulke hat person. He's a yarmulke person. They don't like him because of that. But he's supposed to be a darling still, even, of the Democratic Party. And he states here with this video attached, let's pass a bell-to-bell cell phone ban so high school can look more like this again. I'm going to tell you right now, as somebody who was a teacher, and I was only a teacher for a year, but it was enough. It was enough. As somebody who was a teacher for a year, phones are so integrated into not just the technology of the school, but the culture of the school and the functionality of the school, that it is going to be extremely difficult to enforce that and get that to pass without a ton of exception. I mean, in my school that I was a teacher at, we had a female student. She had become a mother. She had a kid. She had a baby. And that baby was being taken care of while she was at school. She was lucky enough to have people in her life that could take care of her kid while she was at school. But she needed her phone on her at all times in case there was an emergency with her kid, right? Because she needs to know. And that's fair, right? Problem is that how do we stop students from, how was I supposed to stop her from abusing that privilege, which, by the way, she did a few times. How am I going to stop her from abusing that privilege without confiscating her phone? And there's many different other exceptions. You could probably, medical exceptions and things like that are probably going to be forced into the bill and thought of and made because they have to be. And this, I wanted to bring this up because this perfectly encapsulates here the Democratic mindset to writing law. A sitting governor, a darling of the Democratic Party, one of the big names within the Democratic Party, a potential presidential hopeful one day once the leftists start extremely just having a chokehold on the party and lets less crazy people run the party. But this guy is one of the top voices in the Democratic Party. He's coming out and giving the classic Democrat no-brain response, do the simplest solution response here. Like, oh, well, we don't want the kids to be abusing their cell phones or using their cell phones in school incorrectly, right? So let's just pass a bill to get rid of cell phones in schools. That's how Democrats formulate laws and bills. It's the same thing when they say, oh, well, people should just have free health care. Okay, cool. But the thing is that that health care, you have to pay people to do the work. The machines to give the health care cost money to run because they take, power and all that. The landowners, who the hospital is on, all that, they're going to want their money, and the government, we charge taxes if they're owned outright. So those people are going to want, the government's going to want tax money. We want our money as the government, right? So, especially if Democrats are in control of the taxes. So, they don't think about all these things. They don't think about all these situations, all these regulations, all these different outlying scenarios that you have to account for when coming up with laws. They just say things like tax the rich. What the fuck does that mean? What do we consider the rich? And if they're rich, how are they rich? Do they have capital gains, or is all their money tied up in businesses? How much liquidity do they have? You don't think about that. This is the old adage, right? Of the difference between a conservative and a liberal is that a liberal will come upon a fence in a field and say that's blocking their path and say, this fence is blocking my path. It is oppressing me. Therefore, it is evil and should be torn down. While a conservative comes upon the same fence in his path, and the first thing he says is, why is this fence here? Because there's a reason for all this. There's a reason for all these exceptions and regulations and specific, like, you can't just pass blanket statements. But it sounds like, and I think Shapiro probably knows this, but he's just making a blanket statement on Twitter because it makes for a good soundbite. Anyway. So yeah. It's just wild to me. That's perfectly encapsulates the Democratic opinion when it comes to governance. Okay, let's go into... Oh gosh. I don't think we're gonna do the Hunter Biden stuff. Honestly, I can't take Candace Owens. I don't want to cover Candace Owens tonight. I can't take it. I guess we'll briefly talk about the Subnautica stuff, just because, like, I got a video about it, so I don't want to give too much away. And I'm going to put out tomorrow probably, but we'll briefly talk about it. So Subnautica, the game came out recently. If you didn't know, it's pretty fucking popular. It sold like 2 million copies in the first day, like less than 12 hours, 2 million copies. And it's an early access. Very, very popular. I think it was peak of nearly 500,000 players. And it's consistently getting like between like 120, 150,000 players, somewhere along the lines of in the hundreds of thousands of players at any given time, right now at least. And very, very popular, most likely going to be financially successful. But what happened was some keen-eye people started to actually read the end user license agreements with Subnautica and Krafton. Krafton are the guys that put out they publish Subnautica 2. Now Krafton is acting as a publisher here. It's Unknown Worlds, I think, is the developer of Subnautica. They're the guys that actually developed the game, created the game, etc. Krafton is just the guys that are publishing it. Keep in mind, Krafton is the guys that did PUBG, which is mentally successful, or at least was for a time. I don't really know where it stands now. And they also did Inzoi or whatever, however you call it, which just recently came out, I think in the last year or two. I think last year. And that Inzoi is to The Sims as humankind is to civilizations. And I know that comparison is like two comparisons done using two very niche subgenres of gaming. But for the few people, the like 6 people that might see this, that know those two genres and know what I'm talking about, they know exactly what I'm talking about. It's the little brother, right? It's not quite there. And based upon the graphic requirements of Inzoi alone, they put a lot of money into that game. They put a lot of work. Krafton put a lot of work and a lot of money into that game. And I don't think that it's hitting the numbers that they wanted to. I think last time I saw earlier today, it was like just over 2,000 like players like in the moment, and like averaging about that every 24 hours. And I don't remember what Sims 4 had on just Steam alone, but it was more. And that game, it came out on Steam in 2020, and it's way older than that. And it's still doing bigger numbers than Inzoi. So yeah, they're probably losing money on that game pretty bad. Especially they're putting out new content and updating it still, which I'm pretty sure they do. Pretty sure they are. The whole point here is that Krafton probably doesn't need a PR headache right now, especially with a game that's doing such good numbers for them, like Subnautica 2. But they do end up getting this from PC Gamer. Subnautica 2's EULA is so severe that even this news story breaks it. Let's take a look here. It says here, Subnautica 2 is now out in early access, and despite all the drama preceding it, so much drama, the game itself is actually great. Hooray! But hold on a second. Because publisher Krafton is not done trying to shoot itself in the foot. Let's see here. Goes on to explain EULAs, basically. Even with that in mind, there's some wild stuff in Subnautica 2's EULA, with a bunch of the worst offenders collected by Reddit user Sick Poison on the Stop Killing Games subreddit. So Stop Killing Games is getting involved now. So you know it's not going to end well for them. But let's see here. Get this off my screen. But the article continues, I've already breached the agreement several times myself, even just in this article. By poking fun of this overbearing EULA by the broad language in it, I am arguably breaching the part of the agreement that says I cannot, quote, harm the reputation of the company, our affiliates, our service providers, or licensors, or the reputation of the game, documentation, or services. So just making fun of the game, just saying that this game is dog shit and this company is dog shit for putting out an egregious EULA is in violation of the EULA. And I guess they could take away my access to the game if I had bought it, which I haven't. Because that's another thing about this game, is that, and I do have a different article to back this up. I won't switch back and forth between articles constantly, so we won't get whiplash. But it essentially says that the EULA states that it's the Ubisoft defense, right? The Ubisoft law. You don't actually own your game. It's a license on the game that you are purchasing to access. So, you know, it's the whole, you don't own your games. But apparently, even though we don't own our games, it's still piracy when we don't buy it from them, shall we say. If our autoplay video shows any clips of Subnautica that we've uploaded, this news story is also in breach of this part. Quote, any gameplay video must include the following prominent disclaimer either at the beginning of the video or, if live streaming, near the video in a visible font. Quote, this video is subject to the game's terms of service and was not endorsed or sponsored by Krafton Inc. We may terminate the license limited, or we may terminate the limited license granted to you to create, distribute, or otherwise make available a gameplay video in our sole discretion without notice or liability to you. So if you make a video, or especially if you live stream it, the game, and you don't have a disclaimer out there saying, hey, Krafton isn't affiliated with me, essentially. You know, the old Geeks and Gamers, Zack Snyder, well, I'm not affiliated, right? If you don't have that on your screen somewhere, displayed prominently, whatever that means, Krafton can delete your limited license, meaning essentially taking away your ability to play the game, even though you bought it, right? And also get your video taken down as what is it? You may terminate the license granted to you, distribute it, or otherwise make available gameplay video or sole discretion without. Yeah. So not delete your video, but come after you for a video that you've made, using that as punishment, which is kind of fucked up. Not something I would think a gaming publisher would be interested to do in people who are freely promoting your game. I call this, by the way, the heel versus babyface law. Whereas from heel versus babyface, he streamed Starfield, right? Remember? Then he had his epic Starfield rant. Dan Bass clipped him out, posted that rant. It went viral as a clip. Everybody was posting it. Obviously, game studios and publishers saw it and were like, whoa, this guy's saying some naughty things and he's talking a lot of shit on our game. And he says things like gay and retard. We can't have that. We can't have him streaming our game and let people think we're affiliated with that. So we gotta put this I am not affiliated statement on there and make them do that. That's what this is. That's what this is trying to take care of. What else here? Oh yeah, VPNs. Per the EULA, I cannot use, quote, use a IP proxying or other methods to disguise the location of your use or device, whether to circumvent geographical restrictions on the use of the game, the documentation or services, or for any other purpose or in a way that violates these terms. So, trying to avoid the Helldivers 2 fiasco, where they were the moderators for the like support chat or whatever, were literally telling people to break PlayStation terms of service and use VPNs to be able to access the game because due to the PSN requirements, even though the game was sold in countries that you wouldn't be able to access PSN, they were still not getting their games essentially taken away from them, even though they had the ability to purchase them. Knowing full well PSN wasn't being available in that country. At least the company knew fully well. Still sold it there. So yeah. Yeah, they don't want you to use a VPN. This is all anti-piracy stuff, right? More anti-piracy stuff. Trying to lock down your location so you're not able to bounce off other locations to try to pirate games. This person says, the article writer, my VPN is frequently on while I'm at work so I can check game prices and deals in different regions, and I use outside of work as well. So basically, yeah. What happens if you leave your VPN on because whatever reason you like to keep your VPN on and then you accidentally, fire up Subnautica 2, your VPN is on, you get caught, and then your license gets terminated again, I guess. There's a clause that says I can't use or permit the use of a game on more than one device at the same time without purchasing a separate additional license. So you can't run the game on two different devices. So he says right here, can I still have it installed on multiple devices? No, I think they make that pretty clear there. Does streaming it from my PC to my Steam Deck or my Shield TV count as using it on multiple devices at the same time? It's a very broad clause. Yeah. I mean, it's a gamble. Sounds like a gamble. And this one is really funny. The EULA states that you cannot engage in acts prohibited by applicable laws or generally unacceptable by social norms. What the fuck does that mean? Engage in what?
the hell is even that?
Hey, yo, what the fuck?
What does that mean? Engage in acts prohibited by applicable law. Like, what laws could you be violating playing Subnautica 2? I guess that it's more anti-piracy stuff, not in-game stuff, but or generally this is the real one though. This is the real one that gets me. Or generally unacceptable by social norms. That could mean anything. The social norms in Saudi Arabia are different from the social norms of China, are different from the social norms of the United States. So what do you mean by social norms? That is quite clearly a subjective statement. I don't know how you generally unacceptable by the way, like this game has no combat. So like you think of like GTA where like guys are blasting hookers, right? Or mowing them down in a car or something. That doesn't happen here. You can't do that. There's no combat. One of the main complaints, they just put the developers just put a statement out today because people were complaining that there's no combat in the game, where they were basically like, fuck off, we're not putting combat in the game, which is an interesting way to respond amidst all of this bullshit. But there's no combat in the game. So how could you possibly try to violate some kind of social norms or laws within the game? I don't understand. You're not allowed to post spam. So if you're playing with other people, because it has online playability, co-op playability, and you're trolling somebody, you're making fun of your friend or something in the chat that they have there or something, you'll probably get in trouble for that. Let's see here. Yeah, blah, blah, blah. Oh, they also say here, like, Unknown Worlds isn't responsible for this EULA. It's Crafton, so they're playing Crafton. So, yeah. But this isn't the only... this isn't all that they're doing. Because... Let's see if I can pull it up here. Yeah. So, from Pirate Nation, right? Let's bring up the photo. So, this is, I think, from a Steam review that he has here. And it says here, from my reading, I spotted 4 major points of concern. All the content you make for the game, such as, but not limited to, mods, is not your property, but belongs to the company. It's a fucking Warcraft situation. It's a Blizzard situation. You don't own the mods that you make. The company owns the mods. It's fucking wild. You renounce your right for a class action lawsuit. Additionally, you agree to obligatory arbitration as an imposed first step with a specific arbitrator imposed in the license. By the way, all the arbitration and all the legal proceedings and everything like that is done in California through California courts. Nowhere else. You have to go through California. And this is some union busting like shit right here. Where they're like, no, you can't join a class action lawsuit. You have to go through us first. Because I think they see all the class action lawsuits against, especially the ones against Ubisoft, stand a very strong chance of winning. And they don't want you to be able to do that. Especially when they put other clauses in this EULA that are the same as Ubisoft, saying you don't actually own your games, right? And then fuck you over. There are 2 sections regulating data collection and privacy. While the first one isn't quite concerning, they specifically won't sell your data for a few targeted purposes, but it has enough exploitable loopholes. The second section specifies full data collection and sharing, selling, etc. So they're doing data collection on you too. They're doing full on Alex Jones turning the frogs gay level data collection on you through the Subnautica 2 video game. And they say they're not going to sell your information for specific reasons to specific people. But that doesn't mean that, as it says here, that data is not for sale. Also it says, and the oft-heard refrain, you do not own your game. Yeah, we know that part. So, is this going to affect Subnautica sales? Probably not. They're probably going to do just fine. Developers are going to do just fine. Crafton as a publisher, unfortunately, is going to do just fine. But it's very clear that their reputation is starting to sour, and it should on them. Not only did they turn out a lackluster game in Enzoi, but now they're doing legally egregious things to the level of like people like Ubisoft, Nintendo, even PlayStation, and all that. And when you do that, it's something hard to come back from reputation-wise. And it also serves as a warning sign to like gamers that like you need to read your end user license agreements. You need to read them and know what's in there before you get into what you're getting into. I know that's easy to say that someone sitting here who I do the same thing, right? I just click the fucking box and move on because I got places to go, people to see, things to do. But you need to actually sometimes sit down and read that shit because it's important. And it's how they're able to do all these things. And again, these things that they put here are subject to change essentially whenever they want. For the good or for the worst. So yeah. Let's see here. You know what? I think I'm going to save the Ubisoft stuff for a video. That's kind of the topics overall I wanted to talk about. So I think we're going to get into the doom scroll here in just a second. Here's a small thing. So from Culture Crave, Barnes & Noble CEO says he has no problem selling AI-generated books. Quote, so long as the AI-written book says it's AI-written and isn't ripping off someone else and the consumer wants to buy it, then we will stock them, which there's some people who would say that all AI-written art is based off of other people's art because that's what it does. It analyzes all the data that already exists that's been created by humans and then puts something out original using that data as reference points. But I will say, I do give him props for making a business decision. Basically being like, hey, if it says it's written by AI and people still want to buy it, we'll sell it to them. He's making a business decision here. Because, I mean, Barnes & Noble could stand to make some sales, trust me. Every year it's surprising how they're still in business to me. Mostly because you have people who hate the idea of AI, right? And hate the idea of an AI written book. You know, the people with fucking chibi art anime profile pics who come in and complain about AI anytime it's fucking brought up in art of any kind whatsoever. They come in here absolutely freaking out that an AI book might be sold at Barnes & Noble, even though to them, Barnes & Noble is a store that they go to never purchase anything in and just walk around the store for hours. That's what Barnes & Noble is to most of them. Let's see here. So, I think this is time. Start the doom scroll. We're going to refresh. See what's going on. Let's see here. Take a swig of water. It's the end of my water. Hopefully, it'll last me for like the next half hour. Okay. So, what does Neurotic have to say here? Oh, I need an intro or whatever. I need to make one for like shifting over to the doom scroll and play that or whatever. Little transition video, which I'm going to work on whenever I have time to actually work on something. All right, so Neurotic says, I'm not sure if you guys caught this in The Boys finale because it was really, really subtle. Hold on for this one because it's wild. This is supposed to be Elon Musk. Yeah, that... Okay. Yeah, I see it. But here's the thing. The Boys did end today or this week. I'm going to be honest with you. I've seen parts of like The Boys season 1 and season 2. I got to be honest with you. I think I'm good. I think I don't have to see that ever at all. I don't want to. It doesn't really seem like something I would be interested in. Grupo Schizo America First HQ. I don't know about that. IGN. A cheeky takedown of capitalism served up in signature Boots Riley bizarre fashion. I love boosters. Is equal parts romp and political statement. What the fuck is that? This is the like people who like robbed like the fashion, like high-end fashion stores or whatever. And yeah, it not a movie marketed for me, not for me. If you're leftist, anti-capitalist, political females with, wild colored hair, this is probably going to be the movie for you. You can have this one. It's not for me. It's not meant for me. Fill your boots. I don't care. Oh God, what is Chrissy saying? Pretty sure Tony Hinchcliffe doesn't give a fuck about getting George Floyd's family's approval on a roast joke. I mean, that's true, but why is Chrissy Mayer like not taking a hiatus from the internet? Like, if I was having to deal with some of the shit that she was dealing with, I would just take a hiatus from the internet because it's not getting better for the quartering, and she's being lumped in with the quarter. So I would just kind of want to disappear for a little while. But I don't know. Maybe she can't afford to do that. Chelsea Handler slams Shane Gillis and Tony Hinchcliffe's racist jokes at Kevin Hart roasts. There was so much disgustingness. Yeah, I mean, here's the statement. In a statement shared with the Hollywood Reporter, Gillis said of Handler's comments, "This is a big moment for Chelsea. I'm glad she's capitalizing. Good for her. We're all rooting for her." So and it's quite clear that Shane Gillis doesn't like her, by the way. He out and out said that she had dinner with Jeffrey Epstein and stuff like that. An intimate dinner, he said. Not a whole lot of people there. So, yeah. It's quite clear what he thinks of her. And I've seen the videos and like those roasts. Celebrity roasts have gotten like way too out of hand. They need to chill the fuck out with the jokes. Because the jokes are getting, they're like getting visceral with the jokes. What happened to Natalie Maines from the Dixie Chicks? Age and like food. That's typically what happens. Age, food, and liberalism. I can't wait to see what they do with this scene. Oh yeah, there is a lot of like racial stuff in Betty Boop. So like, it's gonna be interesting to see how they deal with that as well. Ice Poseidon accused of being closeted homosexual by Action Man. I think you and Sam Pepper had a homosexual relationship. This is like third tier like streamer drama that I don't know about. So good luck with that. Michael Bay to direct movie about the U.S.-Iran conflict based on the true rescue mission to save 2 downed airmen. I mean, I'm glad Michael Bay is getting... I miss Michael Bay, man. I miss Michael Bay's ridiculous action films of the early 2000s. I miss Transformers done by Michael Bay. I'll even take like Michael Bay's shitty like Ninja Turtles movies back again. Just to have something different. Something unique and different versus all the shit that we're getting nowadays. Tim Sweeney. Matthew Ball, author of the famous 2020 essay and later book on the evolution of gaming toward the metaverse, has joined Microsoft as chief strategy officer for game. Whoa, hey. So, from Shinobi 602, Xbox expands leadership team. Matthew Ball, ex-Amazon Studios Industry Analysis, joins as chief strategy officer. Scott Fleet, ex-Azure OpenAI AI Core, joins as chief technology officer. Okay, cool. Author of the famous 2020 essay and later book on the evolution of gaming toward the metaverse is joining. I think Tim Sweeney's trying to dunk on them, but like, I don't think that's the dunk that he thinks it is. Get Buzz, highly doubt. Thank you, Ad. Woke left. Woke right. Horror show theory is real. Normal people. Oh yes, yes we do. What? What is Roseanne? Oh yes to what, Roseanne? Like you just... Oh, she is... This Massey loss just vindicated at Nick Fuentes. We must all vote Democrat in 2026. Hopefully people understand now. Oh, yes, yes, we do. Yeah, looks like Roseanne gets it. I was confused at first, then I saw the quote tweet. But it's always funny that it's like, it's all these like crusader like accounts. All these guys LARPing as like super religious Catholic like crusaders coming out and being stands for Thomas Massey. And they're all basically of the same thing. Like, he's principled. He's an honorable man. And so, is he? Is he? He has accusations against him that like he's had a lot of sexual contact with women. A lot younger than him, by the way. And where there's smoke, there's fire, concerning the fact that, like, after his wife died, like, within a year, he's married to, like, another woman. Like, does anybody, like, if my wife died and I got married to another woman within a year, my wife's family, my deceased wife's family would be very angry with me. And my wife has now told me that like she expects me to mourn her for like 20 fucking years or whatever if she goes first. That I'm not allowed even, that she'll haunt me. And this guy's out there like with a new wife within like a year. It's pretty wild. Politicians begin offering Tucker Carlson $1 million to not endorse. Oh yeah, Tucker Carlson has been in. Yeah, his endorsements haven't counted for shit really. Yeah, see here. Warhorse Studios, new Middle Earth protagonist whenever you choose. Option 3 on your best childhood friend for whom you have no romantic feelings for before. Yep, another Daniel Varva class. Yeah, see, this is the thing, man. These motherfuckers right here are the people who are like, oh, it's one thing in the game, and you're obsessing about it. You might have heard the rumor. Yeah, compiling a list of god tier actors wasted on shitty writing. I mean, that's a pretty good. That's a pretty solid list right there. I don't think Rufus Sidwell has had a pretty good career outside of Man in the High Castle. So, and I'm not sure, like Nikolai Coster-Waldau, I'm not sure outside of Game of Thrones he's actually that good of an actor, because I've seen a few things that he's been in outside of Game of Thrones. Let's see here. Eric Kripke reveals that Gen V cast originally had a much bigger roles in The Boys' final season, but Kevin Feige advised him against the idea. Yeah, probably because Kevin Feige was probably like, yeah, it's probably a dumb idea for all these like small niche kid Avenger superheroes in your fucking season finale. The one thing he probably does right in the season finale. Currently rewatching The Mandalorian, and this part still gives me chills. Why are we shilling? Why are we shilling for... It's just gotten sad, dude. It's gotten sad the level of like person you have to be when you're shilling for Star Wars at this point. Everything I don't like is a Jewish conspiracy. And that's comes from Tucker Carlson. Yeah. Tucker Carlson put this video out here. The Israel lobby takes out Thomas Massey and you know what's the MAGA in the process. This is good news. The good news is we've now confirmed how the system works. Yeah. Are the paid partnership with this... No shot. No shot. This motherfucker literally has a paid partnership ad in his post complaining about our system being bought off. Like, what? What? What?
What the hell is even that?
Here comes the money.
Here we go. Money talk.
Here comes the money.
Who? Why would he think this is a good look? Like, what are the replies to this? What are the replies to this? Why would any sane human being make the decision to advertise with this reprehensible? You have fallen so far from the Massey is gone. Blah blah blah. I was mega, but I can't support it. Blah blah blah. Pay partnerships with the Islamic Brotherhood, Qatari Ministry propaganda. I said blah blah blah. I do not have to. Yeah, it's just people going in on it. But, like, that's wild to me. You'd put a paid partnership ad on a post. On a post. of you, of a video of you, your live stream complaining about the system being bought off. Motherfucker, you're bought off. Why would you? It's so stupid, dude. It's so stupid. I don't get it, man. But yeah, yeah. That's a good one right there. Tucker Carlson raises $15 million for new media venture with backing from his financer, Omid Malik. Yeah. So yeah, just people disproving him. Like, yeah, it's not. It's like, are the Yamaka people in the room with us right now? Like, sometimes it's not all a conspiracy. Whoa, is that Catherine Zeta-Jones? Monica Bellucci. I never hit the gym. Oh, hey, whoa, hey, whoa, hey. She was fine back in the day, though. Dude, Matrix 2? Extreme limited pairs. I don't give a fuck about shoes. I think I'm going to throw up. Trump, I'm right now at 99% in Israel. I could run for prime minister. So maybe after I do this, I'll go to Israel and run for prime minister. Yeah, he's gaslighting people. Like, Sudanese child covers his entire body with Vaseline, and when the father, okay, whatever that is. I found this in my 15-year-old brother. I think we all know. Cobra brand coffee, D-Day Cobra. No, I don't think you need to do that. Fucking eagle. Tree beer is wild, man. True Bear creates some wild memes for geeks and gamers. Lives to TikTok. Breaking. Minneapolis daycare owner featured in Nick Shirley's video. Famina Egg Muhammad charged with wire fraud and conspiracy for allegedly stealing over $4.6 million through false claims to federal and state programs. Oh! Shocking! What a fucking shock! I can't believe it! Couldn't get it to stop there. Yeah, what a fucking shock. The person that was quite clearly a fraudster is a fraudster. Zionist millionaire podcaster Ethan Klein is suing me for a YouTube video. I'm defending against it, but I need your help. I know nothing about any of H3's like lawsuits and bullshit that they're into. Nor do I really care. Because it's like a sector of the internet that I don't interact with or I think really matters to a whole lot of people. So I want to stop reading more. Drop your best book recommendations. Yeah, Tolkien, 100%. Chris is always saying that she's going to get ratioed by Gary. And she always does. So I guess she's right. Funny how after Kimiko takes away Butcher's powers, he doesn't immediately start dying. You know, because the end of last season showed he was only alive because he bonded with the parasite he got from taking Compound V. That would require good writing, though. Yeah. They have some Game of Thrones level, late Game of Thrones level writing on The Boys. I saw another thing where like Huey apparently is supposed to have like a spare thing of Compound V that he still has stashed away for a rainy day or whatever. Never uses it. So Massey blames defeat on Jews of rural Kentucky. The Babylon Bee. That's a good one. Replying LA Times, the frog of shame. Oh, he's got a frog of shame meme? What is this headline? Pratt's loudest fans fundamentally loathe modern day LA, and that should chill all the Angelinos, writes the Times columnist Gustavo. I don't know, man. I don't think Spencer Pratt is going to... It's wild that Spencer Pratt, of all people, has gotten into like politics. He was like a reality star or whatever. But it's... I don't think he's got a great chance of winning just because it's LA. I don't know if he's running as a Republican, but if it's LA, they'll never elect a Republican. It just won't happen. Stoked to share. I'm joining Xbox. Yeah, we just read that. Mountain Dew announced, sorry y'all, we just ran out of Baja Blast Indefinitely. No! What are people going to get at fucking Taco Bell now? It was a go-to. Entire plan, prepared defense for the White House was like 3 guys in the ceiling shooting down a bulletproof characters once they pass them. Has this been done? Oh, I'm getting tired. We're about to call it too. Whoa. This was worthless. Yeah. Yeah, he did. He went on all those shows too and tried to make appeals and stuff like that too. And it didn't work. When I saw this scene, it finally hit me. Homelander was the bad guy. This man who I spent 5 years idolizing. Yeah. He's being facetious there. But yeah, in The Boys finale, Homelander would look powerless according to Eric Kripke. Yeah. They took away Homelander's powers, I think, at least for a little bit in the finale episode of the show. And it's like, well, we always kind of saw that coming. And it's like, they just want to make him look weak and like a bully, and that there's no depth to him actually. And like, there's nothing there more than the fact that like he's a weak man that wants more power. And like, even though they've been gassing him up and like altering his character and making him more in depth than he actually was, I think, in the comics. But, you know, it's all because like Homelander has to be a Trump allegory. Like we've seen with posts from The Boys on here, on social media, on X, that it's clearly a Trump allegory, and that's all they want to and all they can do with him. The only guy to truly raise hell about the Epstein files, and a recent critic of Israel, and instantly loses after 14 years of uncontested elections, makes you think he lost by like 10 points or whatever. Like, it wasn't close. It wasn't close. This is beyond the margin of like stealing the votes. I saw a thing by Alex Jones where he was trying to be like, oh, was the election rigged or stolen? Whatever. 10 points, in excess of 10 points is not stolen, okay? Daily Show host Josh Johnson was blatantly hating on Nick Shirley because of how impactful his reporting is during his Breakfast Club appearance with Charlemagne the God, who surprisingly defended Shirley against negativity. Because this dude, this is Josh Johnson, because he's not a journalist, doesn't know protocols, so then this dude also just shows up at a daycare and it's like, let me in with the camera, and they're like, no, well, you must be doing fraud. No, you are a grown man with the camera that wants to come in. Now I have to ask, who is Josh Johnson? But then again, this comes from Dom Lucre, who's just like, the dude steals content. He clickbaits all the time. Like, yeah. Yeah. Oh, there was one topic. I know we're doing the doom scroll right now, but I put it in the thumbnail, so I feel like I should talk about it pretty prominently in the thumbnail. Also, it involves booty, one of my favorite topics, so I kind of want to talk about it. Apparently, gotta scroll all the way down here. All the way down. Keep going. So, if you didn't know, Overwatch, one of the big criticisms of Overwatch is that over the years, they've actually nerfed their characters and how they appear, right? They've sort of desexualized or softened, flattened some of the rounder elements of some of their characters that enticed young straight male gamers, maybe. Well, they put Overwatch characters in Fortnite now, and, well, this is the result. No shot, they unnerved Tracers, but finally, at Fortnite, with the courage to do what at Blizzard wouldn't, the world needs heroes. And it's Tracer here, the character Tracer, with her thick old booty there. And I gotta say, the thing I take away from this most, besides the enjoyment of, drawn, thick booty, is Fortnite is in trouble. Because Fortnite, who has a reputation of flattening out female characters and making them less voluptuous and full in all the right places than they actually are in animation or in other games or in pop culture, comics, movies, etc. Making them actually less sexy, is now doing this to characters. It means that the numbers for active player users is down. I won't say that they're bad, but it's down. And down significantly. Enough to where Epic, old Tim Sweeney, is like, nope, we gotta bring out the goon. We got to get the gooners. We got to get the gooners in here. Release the goon. So anyway, I just thought about that and how I missed it. So we're going to go back. Go back to our regular schedule programming now. Twitter really told me this game was mid-slop, that I should never play, and it just been cool as fuck. This is why you should never believe any random person's opinions here, except maybe a few moots you trust. Oh, this is Stellar Blade, right? I'm going to be honest, I've never played Stellar Blade. I've seen a little bit of playthroughs. It looked okay. It's a bit, I don't like Souls-likes, and it's a bit Souls-like for my taste. I might play it or pick it up one day, to see what it's like. If it's, free or like at a very reduced price. There's just so many other things I have to / want to play before this. I want to pick up Pragmata actually here in a bit, but I got so much on my plate already. And I do know one person. I know Extra Zero, who's a guy I know. He does memes, and he used to do streams like Transformers like content streams. Still probably will go back to doing. He like just had a kid or whatever, so he's kind of on hiatus. But he hates like he hates Stellar Blade. He thinks it's mid as fuck. Like he's one of those people that's like, this game is mid as shit and all that. So I don't know. NASA says we're building a moon base. Oh. At NASA, moon base will serve as a habitat where astronauts live and work during long-term science missions. Join us at 2 p.m. Eastern. Oh, hey. That's kind of fucking rad. That's all on the up and up. Multi says, well, The Boys was a clusterfuck. Was it always this terribly written? I prefer the Spice Girls. I gave you no choice. Okay. I think that's just a random scene he's got pulled up there. But yeah, I think it's always been terrible. Because one of the driving factors was like the gore of the show, right? I was never into the gore, the decadency of the film. The Beagle Daily. If Eric Kripke tried to make Homelander like Trump, he failed. When faced with death, Trump threw his fist in the air and said, fight, fight, fight. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty true. The Mandalorian Grogu is the most boring Star Wars movie yet. Here are our reasons why we gave a 5 from IGN?
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
IGN. The most boring Star Wars movie yet. Yet I assume they're talking about the sequels, because the prequels, they're fine. To me, at least. You cannot like them. I get it. And there's parts of them that are absolute cringe. The original trilogy obviously is goated, but the sequels, absolute dog shit. So I assume that's what they're meaning. But here are 5. Damn. Actually, you know what? Let's take a listen. Putting on the headphones. Let's take a listen here.
Fondness next week.
Let's see what IGN has to say. See if we're getting some.
The Mandalorian and
Okay. Just wanted to make sure we get an audio.
The Mandalorian and Grogu gets caught almost immediately in a feedback loop of self-satisfied nostalgia, which it seldom pulls out of. Here are a few reasons why I gave it a 5. It's mediocre. While technically a follow-up to the 3rd season of The Mandalorian, the film draws from effectively 0 of that groundwork to a degree that's completely perplexing. With Din Djarin and Grogu's relationship pretty well...
It's almost like they made the film completely separate from the shows. It has nothing to do with the show. It's almost like this was probably a plot meant for something else. And that didn't happen, so they scrapped it and tried to recycle it, and it ended up here on the doorstep of The Mandalorian.
Established at this point, neither character really grows or changes here. This is Star Wars at its most conflict-averse, and I can't help but notice that correlates to it also feeling like the most boring Star Wars movie yet. The film's one soaring achievement are the Anzellans. These little Babu's Frick wind up joining the plot about halfway through, and let me say this unequivocally, they will be the only thing about this movie that I remember with any real fondness next week. This is a Star Wars movie missing the thrills, the surprises, the challenges, and the addition of really anything of note to the franchise. This is not the way. Are you going to be watching The Mandalorian and...
Damn, dog. Damn. If IGN can't even muster a shill better than a 5, says it's mediocre, it's boring, doesn't add anything to start, like, basically confirming all the things that we thought it was going to be, like, that's not good. That's not good. Workers of the world unite. Yeah, shout out Anna Kasparian, man. The Thomas, don't be fooled by big old socialist titties. They're meant to hypnotize, then enslave your ass. Thomas Sowell. Thomas Sowell, what a goat. The Boys X account shares meme appearing to mock Charlie Kirk assassination. Almost immediately, users began comparing the wording to a viral post made by political commentator Tim Pool shortly after Charlie Kirk was, boys. Source tells me the deep is stable. Please. Yeah, so they're memeing on Tim Pool. The boys being fucked up. Yeah. Eric Kripke being fucked up. What a surprise. Which Tim Pool had a post. Where there was one thing. Let's see here. Tim Pool. Let's see here. He had a post that was fucking Jack Posobiec that has me fucking blocked because he didn't like me making fun of his pop culture opinions. This was the post. Charlie Kirk supported Thomas Massey. Everything changed after they unalived him. Charlie Kirk has essentially become Tupac at this point. We're like dudes in his like game, the political sphere, right, are just going around saying he said shit and believed shit and using like niche videos or recordings of him maybe potentially alluding to shit here and there that vaguely has to do with what they're saying and using it to try to tie him and his legacy and name to what they're trying to push. Just like there's a line from, I think it's a Immoral Technique, right? It says, you know what's but you know what I think is the most pathetic and gay is when you know what's speculate about what the fuck Pac would say. That's what they're doing to Charlie Kirk. Like, he's like Tupac. They're just saying that he said shit and speculating that he would thought shit when they have no idea. Like, it's getting ridiculous. It's getting out of hand. It's getting out of hand. Oh yeah, this is another thing I saw. So he won't beat James Bond. Yes, exactly, Disparu. Disparu had the same take as I did. 007 First Light's James Bond probably won't be a sexist, misogynist dinosaur. Some things fall by the wayside, IO Interactive says. That's from, what is it? PC Gamer, I think. Something like that. So yeah, saying that like James Bond isn't what is today labeled as a sexist, what for most of the time for James Bond was a womanizer, a player, a man's man, things like that, just hyper masculine as well. Saying that James Bond is not going to be that is like saying, Peter Parker, he's not going to be a science nerd in this movie. We're not going to make Peter Parker a science nerd in this version of Spider-Man. Like, that doesn't make any sense. Because that's who he is. It's part of his identity. Part of what makes him up. So, I don't really know what they're talking about here. He's not going to be James Bond then. He might as well be any other generic spy. Because that's what really separated James Bond apart, right? He was a sort of dashing womanizer who thought quickly on his feet. And by the way, also got his ass kicked a lot in movies, but found a way to overcome and win using his smarts and his creativity and his wit. A lot of times his charm to stay out of fights. But yeah. That's the thing, man. The James Bond movie that's being made by IO, it might be good. And from a lot of the reports of things that are in the game and what the game is like, it sounds like, play-wise, it might be good. The story looks dog shit, and the dialogue sounds dog shit. Especially after hearing Lenny Kravitz playing a villain. Holy shit, it was bad. But from what I hear, the gameplay is decent. And maybe you can get around some of the shitty story, that it's a decent game. But I don't think it's going to feel like a James Bond game. There's a certain feeling to James Bond that just... And the sex appeal and the womanizing and all that is part of that. Integral to that. The womanizing, swashbuckling hero feel to James Bond as a spy is sort of integral to that character. And removing that removes a key element of his character. And it's why it doesn't really feel like James Bond. Like, when they did that essentially to Daniel Craig's James Bond after Casino Royale, essentially, it doesn't really... He didn't really feel like James Bond. It feels like generic British spy movie. Hell, Kingsman felt more like a James Bond movie than most James Bond movies. Since Pierce Brosnan was James Bond. Which you look back, I used to hate the Brosnan years as James Bond. But you look back, that shit is cinema compared to some of the movies that are being put out right now. I used to thought they were cheesy and lame and overdone and like just stupid things put in them. Like hyper technology, like VR sex scene that he has with him and Moneypenny. That's like a bait and switch for like a laugh or whatever. In one of the movies, I can't remember which one. I thought it was unnecessary and it felt weird to me. I didn't like it. But looking back now, that shit is cinema compared to some of the stuff we have now. Bond or outside of Bond. So yeah. James. Overwatch with the Near Collab versus Fortnite with the Overwatch. Yeah. Fortnite's back on the come up just because their user base is down. It's funny. I went on the Kino Casino show to defend the quartering and some troll subscribe me to their show. I'm not a supporter of these people, but now it looks like I am. I just wanted to support Jeremy, but now my entire account and identity is tainted until June 20. Oh, because he got a gifted membership? Is that why? That's what happened. Verbal Riot says taking away Sage's powers and making her morbidly stupid was completely unnoticeable since she's written that way from the start. Damn. Yeah. Pattinson needs to look like this in the Batman 2. I mean, maybe. I highly doubt he will, though. Probably will still look emo. Even though he's going to be in his, 40s by the time that movie comes out. I agree, but I wouldn't be surprised if they just keep having him in the same suit, unfortunately, yeah. Yeah, I think... What time is it? We've been on for 2 hours 20. I think this is a Kentucky right to bear memes. I think this is a good place to call it. So yeah, that's gonna be the end of it tonight. Hope you guys have enjoyed the show. Let's go here. All right, so video came out today. It's over the PlayStation pricing stuff. Go check it out. To any of the people lurking, anybody catching on the VOD, really appreciate you guys. You guys make this all go around. The fact that anybody would watch me for any reason is astounding to me. Really appreciate you guys. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Really helps. Hit the hype button if you can. The hype button always helps out. But yeah, I'm going to be putting out probably another video tomorrow. Probably some shorts too. Going to get back into shorts. Apparently it was a glitch in YouTube that hopefully they fixed now. That is why like shorts numbers were way off and like view counts were so low. I knew something was up. So maybe that's fixed now. So we might do a short, see how that goes. But yeah, more content on the way going through the week. Try to get more during the later week. It's difficult because that's typically my main IRL job work time. So like, yeah, the end of the weekend is hard. But we're going to do that. We're going to see how much we can get out. Again, appreciate you guys. Hope to see you again next time on Doom Scroll. We will have the gaming stream actually tomorrow, because tomorrow is Thursday. We usually do our gaming stream. Do the gaming stream on Thursday. I might be playing Fable again. We'll see. Not 100% sure what we're going to do yet. But until then, hope you guys have a good night, and we'll see you again later.